You know that feeling when you see a movie for the first time and it becomes special and you remember that experience for the rest of your life. Maybe for some of you it was in 1977 when you first went to a galaxy far, far away. Maybe for some of us younger, it was getting to see that in 2015 for the first time and going to a galaxy far, far away. Maybe it's the first time you saw Neo dodge a bullet. Maybe it was the first time you saw Heath Ledger as the Joker. There could be hundreds of things that you just will remember for the rest of your life. Those awe inspiring moments and movies, the images that made us. So, today I wanted to talk about a few movies released in the 21st century that I would give everything to experience seeing that movie again for the first time, be completely erased of my memory of that movie, and getting the chance to see it again for the first time. Since I started in a galaxy far, far away, I might as well just talk about this movie, Star Wars The Force Awakens, the first Star Wars movie I got the chance to see in theaters. And let me do something real quick. There's no reason to have my background blurred. This was an experience seeing this movie the first time in theaters without having any of the baggage that has now become with being a Star Wars fan. I will always remember seeing this movie opening night Friday and just being blown away by it, seeing all my favorite characters coming back, seeing the new generation brought to life. This was such a meaningful experience, and I wish I would get the chance to see a movie like this again because I don't know if any movie has ever had this much hype for me going in and has ever just proven me so happy by the end of it. Here's a movie that I didn't have much hype going into it and then instantly became one of my all-time favorite movies. I saw this at a drive-in 2018. You know it, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I saw it at a drive-in with my friends because I honestly didn't know what to expect. It was an animated Spider-Man movie and the trailers didn't look so good. I was 15 minutes late to sitting down and seeing this movie because of how long the popcorn line was. This Watching it became an experience. It was something that all my friends and I shared, and we all knew by the end of it we had watched something so truly and uniquely special that I love this moment and I love this experience. And I hope people who, for some reason, if you haven't already, check out this movie and get to experience it for the first time because it's so worthy of the hype. This one's kind of a cheat because you only have to look at the very top one because again, I'm only talking 21st century and I'm not going to be talking about the aviator today. I am talking Martin Scorsese's Oscar winner, The Departed, Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, you got Mark Wahlberg, and you got Jack Nicholson. A movie that I saw this at like the age of 13 and I didn't know movies could do this. I didn't know they could take these chances. I didn't know they could show such violence without remorse. These characters could be so ugly as they were and so morally corrupt and compromised. It was just a thrilling experience and the first movie that I ever learned of Martin Scorsese's name from. This is an all-time classic. It's one of the most entertaining movie and every twist and turn pays off, especially on rewatch. Everyone's giving it their A game in this movie. This is one of the easiest Martin Scorsese rewatchables you'll ever see, and I love The Departed for that reason. Here's a movie I wish I could redo all over. In 2013, Spike Lee made a movie called Old Boy, which was my introduction into the film Old Boy. I never saw the 2003 film until years later. And boy, did I wish I went into the 2003 film completely blind. I wish I didn't know the plot twist that Spike Lee has in his film. And obviously, it's the same in the 2003's Old Boy, Park Chan Wook. Uh, this is a movie that I just wish I could redo over again so I could actually experience it in the quality movie that it's supposed to be. I love Spike Lee, but his Old Boy remake is not it. This 2003 film is extremely special and it's so unique and it's so darkly violent, yet it's so poignantly beautiful. It feels like a Greek tragedy just come to life. And it's just astonishing what Park Chan Wook is able to succeed with in his narrative structure of this movie. Old Boy, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin it for you, but my God, this is one of the most upsetting films I have ever seen and will ever see. This one's a quick one, and the only reason I wish I could experience this movie again for the first time and have it erased from my memory is because someone spoiled this movie for me. I saw this movie on my birthday months after it because I'm like, do I really need to see this movie after having the twist? Despite loving the director, I finally did, and I'm so glad I did get to see it in theaters. But God, I wish I didn't know the twist of Knives Out. I wish I went in blind not knowing who the bad guy is and knowing what largely the twist was. It was still a really fun experience to see, and it is one of my favorite films of 2019. But my God, it would have just made for such a better experience not to know that and to just be completely brought in by the twisty webs that Ryan Johnston succeeds in creating in Knives Out. So that's why I would redo this experience. So this one's technically a cheat, but you know what? Christopher Nolan, I could really experience any of his movies over again. Here in this collection pack that I have, the director's collection, it comes with 5 movies: Memento, The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, Insomnia, Inception. I read it backwards because of how I'm looking at it on the screen. Just look how beautiful this is. Specifically, if there's any title that I would love to see, it's this one. Of course, The Dark Knight. This was movie. I was probably like 10 years old when this movie came out, and my dad did not let me see it in theaters because he's like, this is going to be too disturbing for you. I bought this movie at a Barnes and Noble like 2 years later, sneaked it into my copy of my books and all that. It was for my birthday, so I just grabbed like 10 other movies and then made sure The Dark Knight was just kind of wedged in between there, so no one would realize that I was buying it. Christopher Nolan, probably the director that I've just loved getting to watch the most growing up. I mean, he was really the ultimate director of my childhood. And yeah, every movie he made was an event after The Dark Knight. There was literally a world that felt like movies before Christopher Nolan and then movies post The Dark Knight. And that includes everything from Inception, Interstellar, Dunkirk, and most recently his Best Picture winner, Oppenheimer, which I have somewhere behind me. I don't know exactly where it is, but yeah, would have loved to have seen The Dark Knight for the first time and not knowing that Heath Ledger performance and what it was about to bring and how it was going to floor me. Let's do a few more quick ones. I mean, it's Avatar. I didn't see this movie until last year before the new one came out. And that's crazy. I did not see Avatar in 2009 with everyone else in theaters. I did get to see the re release in theaters, and that was a great experience. But yeah, I just wish I was around to have just been blown away. Yeah, I just wish I was around to just experience the world of Pandora for the first time and just enter that world with everyone else. That's one of those cultural moments that's just like it to me it's now like looking back I'm like, did I just skip Star Wars? One of the most biggest movies of all time and I just like treated it like it was nothing and I never saw the film. Like what was I doing? But yeah, Avatar was one of those ones where I kind of wish I watched it and how it would have impacted me growing up. Only reason I have this movie, A Quiet Place, on this list is just because this was also a missed experience for me, where I saw this at home once it released to Blu-ray. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have paid to go see this movie in the theater. I think I was just so scared of theater members around me just talking or having their phones out to really ruin the experience of this movie. I don't know, but this was definitely one of those ones where after seeing him, like, gosh, that would have been something even more special in the theaters. So still a really special movie. Did just wish that this was another one that I got to experience for the first time in a theaters. I have a movie, or I should say, I have 4 movies, which I only got to see one of these in the theaters. And this was definitely a franchise I should have spent more time with when I was younger. I didn't start watching Jackass until college. And my God, this is some of the funniest film series. This is probably the most consistently funny series of the 21st century. Every movie is extremely funny and special in its own way. The friendship and camaraderie in them is great. And it's one of those things where I ended up watching a lot of the stunts before I actually saw them together in a movie. So to experience Electric Avenue in Jackass 3D for the first time would have just been so much more special. Experiencing Riot Control along with the other hour and a half movie for Jackass number 2. Just all of it. It was one of those experiences where I'm like, gosh, that would have been so much more impactful to see it all together instead of just seeing it on stints on YouTube years and years later. So this was definitely one of those ones where I'm like, because Jackass is best experience with a crowd. Watching Jackass alone is nowhere near as fun as watching Jackass with a crowd. And I wish I got the opportunity to watch all these films with a crowd. And then last, but certainly not least, but at least for today's purposes, I have Quentin Tarantino's masterpiece, Inglorious Bastards with Brad Pitt. A movie I saw way too young and was just bored because there's so much dialogue and the action doesn't really kick into the third beat until all the action kicks in. And I'm like, oh, okay, what is this movie? I don't get it. And then seeing it like years later, again and revisiting it, I was like, oh, Inglorious Bastards is actually one of the best movies ever made and truly one of the best scripts ever made. And Christoph Waltz is incredible as Hans Landa. And yet the only reason I didn't appreciate it is because I was way too young and just didn't get it. And thus the ending of the movie, which I wish I went into not knowing what it was, and this was Tarantino's version of a fairy tale, it was one of those experiences where I'm just like, oh, okay, I really wish I got to experience it the way everyone else did. So, for any of you listening right now, if you haven't gotten the chance to just see any of these movies, plus so many more I have on my wall, I only talked about 21st century movies today, and I don't even own all the movies that I should own. I only own like 500 Blu rays at this point. Just do it. I mean, that's such a rewarding thing is to be able to experience these movies for the first time. And I definitely have no regrets. So if you haven't seen any of these movies, which admittedly, these were a lot of really popular choices, but if you haven't, go out and check it out. And if this video does well, I'll be making a 1990s video as well. So thank you for staying put.